Hello, I hope all is well. So today I thought we'd just take a quick look at Tonex ONE again and explain a few things to make it as least frustrating as possible when using the software. So we have our Tonex ONE and we'll start off with this great big circle which will be our preset. And the reason I'm using this is that no matter what you're doing within the Tonex software, it will always be within the confines of a preset. And within this preset, we have another small circle, which will be our tone model. So within the preset, we will select a tone model or the profile or the capture that you want to use within that preset. And then we can add to that various effects. Now, the important thing to remember is that this is always within the confines of one preset. So you're not editing, for example, a separate tone model or something else. You're always editing a preset. Now we'll just hook up our Tonex ONE and we'll look at the app as well as the plugin and some tips on at least how I use it to make it more bearable, I guess, or easier to use. So quick word about how the app and also the plugin works. So on top of both of those, you have something called the Ik Product Manager. And that's what you're going to be using to update your software. As you can see, this is the latest version of Tonex SE, which is installed. And this is where you'll go to install all updates, which will also be all future firmware updates and things like that you will add to your Tonex device, or in my case, the Tonex ONE. So once Tonex is installed, you'll have the choice of the app, which is a standalone app, and also the plugin that you can use within your DAW. Now you will use the standalone Tonex app, which I'll open here, to communicate with the Tonex pedal. So I have the Tonex standalone app opened here, and this is where maybe some of the confusion sometimes arises when looking at the Tonex app, in that over here on the left-hand side, we have a preset and then a tone model selector button. In which that you can either go through the various presets you have, or you can click on tone model to go through the various tone models that you have on your computer or things that you might want to browse online. Now the thing to remember here, this is always within the confines of a preset which is listed here. So for example, if I go to preset and then I just select something else, say JCM, you'll see it switches here. And if I go to tone model, it's still the same preset, but I've just changed the tone model, or the profile, or the amp that is within that initially selected preset. And you can see, thanks to this little asterisk there, that it hasn't been saved just yet. And to save the preset with a new tone model or something else that you've done, you'd hit this button here and then you'd hit save. Now, the reason why this can sometimes be quite frustrating is that you basically have to have either empty presets that you can use, or you'll mess with pre-existing presets and then change them around by looking at tone models, as opposed to create new preset and then build something new from there. So you always have to, select a pre-existing preset and then save that to a new slot or overwrite pre-existing presets. So for that, I'd suggest taking any of the presets that you can find, even an existing one, and then you hit the save button up here. This window will come up, and then basically do something like call it default. You can change the character to something else, but it doesn't really matter because every time you save a preset, you have to go through this procedure. And then just save that. And then over here, we have a default preset. And I would suggest hitting this button over here, which sets it to be one of your favorite presets. Because the thing here is that, if I go into my presets, we have this whole big list here. Under all presets, it's even longer. However, favorites is the one that you decide on yourself. And so by doing that, once we have the default preset, which we just made loaded, we can then go into tone model. Hope you're following me here. And then we can decide on, okay, what amp do I want to be using, or what setup do I want to be using within this new preset that I'm creating, maybe effects and things like that. And then when we hit save again, we can then change the name to something else and then add in information if we want and then save. So it's sort of like having a free or an empty template or a new preset button per se without having that option within the software. And to save you some headaches, while we might have the Tonex ONE connected via USB-C, I'd recommend plugging into your audio interface as per usual, as if you're using the plugin or the standalone app and auditioning tones in that fashion. And that is simply because there is no live editor for the Tonex ONE in this case. And maybe that's something that will change in the future, but unlike, well, pretty much all other devices on the market, that's something that is currently not on the Tonex. So to avoid all the extra hassle of plugging into this and then trying to figure out stuff with Tonex being your sound card, I'd suggest not to do that and then plug into your audio interface as per usual. So to make sure you're not using the Tonex ONE then as your interface, you would just go into the options over here and then double check that your normal audio interface is the one being used as opposed to Tonex ONE in this case. And then once that's set up, you can use the app as you normally would, just to like audition tones. And then should you want to move those presets that you made onto the Tonex device, you can then go to Librarian and then drag them over into the device. Now there's also the plugin, of course. I'm just showing it here within Reaper. And typically that's usually the version that I will use because it means that I can add different effects before or after the Tonex plugin within the chain and obviously easily record with it. So depending on your setup and how you prefer to use it, you can either use one or the other. My recommendation would be, however, to not interface via the Tonex to avoid all these headaches, and then just use the Tonex app or the Tonex plugin to interface and listen and audition to your tones. And then when you want to drag presets over into your Tonex device, then use the app, the Librarian, and then drag them over as you normally would. So in this example, say the JCM preset that I've opened up here, if I add a compressor and say modulation and delay and all these effects to that, and then save it, it will be saved into the JCM preset. So if I select another preset now, you'll notice the effects have zeroed out and it's always saved on a per preset basis. You can, of course, when you're within a preset, just add on extra effects as you like, but they will always be tied to the preset, if that makes sense. And that's one of the limitations of the Tonex ONE compared to the bigger Tonex. There's no way, for the moment at least, to control turning on effects on and off, which you can do on the bigger Tonex through MIDI, for example. And I think there's some workarounds if you have these controllers maybe for the Tonex ONE that it's possible, but that's not something that I've been able to do just yet. And that is an important distinction to bear in mind when you're loading presets with these effects or without these effects into the Tonex ONE. So as an example, I made two presets for the Tonex ONE, and I'll link to the video of adding effects with the Tonex ONE. And essentially they're just two presets, one with the noise gate on and then another one with the noise gate off, and as you can see, with the delay on. Now ideally it would be great if some of these things within the software would be, I guess, a bit more straightforward or follow the logic that we've all kind of become accustomed to over the years. That's not the case. Maybe things will change at some point. We'll get a live editor or something like that. But hopefully this gives you a better idea on how the infrastructure works with regards to setting up tones, setting up presets and putting them on the Tonex ONE, and hopefully avoid the sort of hassles and frustrations that I've encountered myself, and I think other users have encountered as well when using this device. Now I'd love to hear from you as well on some of the frustrations that you might have had while setting this up and using the software, and also maybe suggestions on how to improve things, as you never know, Ik Multimedia might be watching this video or looking at comments and things like that, And hopefully some of that feedback will reach people that are, developing and updating the software. In any case, hope you got something out of this. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.